Welcome to Galactic Grandmother, Heart to Heart. My name is April, and my special guests today are Ellen Wier and Neil Mallinson. I interviewed Ellen. It'll be 2 years next month, and she was sharing her childhood near-death experience, which she has since written a book about called Waking Up in Heaven. At that time, she had just gotten engaged, although it wasn't announced yet. And a lot has happened since then. So I am so happy to welcome you both and have you catch us up to date with how these past 2 years have been for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, April.
Yeah, we've been through quite a journey this last year with unexpected injury and an unexpected honeymoon phase, I
Mhm.
guess you could say. And we've grown a lot spiritually and personally and as a couple in our
Mhm.
partnership through this. And we have actually kind of tried to flip it to use it as a training and education and teaching experience for others as we go through it. And we're still in it. So people
Mhm.
who've been following our story on Substack and from the beginning when it happened on the honeymoon to now, we're just trying to use it as a way to help people build hope in their experience and how they can get through things.
And that's why I reached out to you because I have been following you, and you write beautifully, I have to say. And the experience that you guys have gone through together, being a brand new couple, is a wonderful example for others to that are going through difficult, traumatic times.
Mm.
Would you like to speak to what happened?
The word trauma is quite apropos, I think, appropriate for the situation. Ellen and I were married October 26, 2024, and then November 17th, so less than a month later, I had a fall. I was coaching kids soccer, and I punted a ball and I slipped in the mud and landed and hit my back and hit my head, and I had a concussion. So I sought out health. One of my health practitioners is a chiropractor, and I sought him out for help to be able to adjust my neck and my back, and it made it worse. And then I was put on a whole myriad of medications that we didn't realize till later my body couldn't handle. There were painkillers and things that
Oh.
would typically be prescribed for pain. That caused another more damage to my brain. I became basically comatose and catatonic. I
Yeah.
didn't know where I was, who I was. It was quite frightening.
On our
And then
honeymoon.
that was on our
Oh.
honeymoon. We went on a cruise to the Mexican Riviera, which was beautiful, down to Mexico and to Cabo San Lucas. And it was a beautiful ship. And I've been on many cruises before, but this one was very special because it was our honeymoon. Unfortunately, I was not able to participate in the activities because I was basically drugged and in a space that I was just not able to do much. So second day, I stopped the medications. I didn't want to use the medications anymore, and that was probably not a good choice, and that caused more issues with the brain. Um, to make a long story longer, um, I sought out more treatments for my neck and my back, and it caused even more damage to my brain stem, to my upper cervical spine, my thoracic spine, and my lumbar spine. And it's been over a year now, and I've been dealing with chronic pain, chronic fatigue, chronic anxiety, depression, and all that comes with a traumatic brain injury and spinal injury.
Mhm.
I'm much better than I was.
Yeah.
It's definitely put a lot of stress on our relationship. Never expected to be in the situation that we were in.
Uh-huh.
Like you shared, April, we were newlyweds. Ellen and I met in May 2020 during COVID time, and that was a really interesting story as well. But so we've known each other, going on 6 years, and we had, you know, a really a fantastic relationship going into the injury. We'll call it the injury. So I have life pre-injury
Yeah.
and life post-injury. So we've been dealing with all the things that come along with a major brain and spinal injury, and there's a lot of emotion that comes into play, a lot of dark night of the soul process that I've been through, not only through this experience, but prior experiences. So it's definitely tested my fortitude, my resilience, my endurance. my background is in fitness and training, and I've always used my body for my health and well-being and for my career.
Mhm.
So it definitely has challenged me to go inward and not seek validation outside of myself and really use my own strength and spirit to guide me to back to healing and back to full function. We're still in that process, like Ellen said. So it definitely put a challenge in my life and our life as a couple. Ellen has 3 kids as well, so that's also made that's not easy to navigate even in a healthy, functional relationship. So that's been another stressor on our life. I wouldn't change it for the world. It's not been something I would have expected, but it is like you shared earlier, April. It's, life comes at you and you got to deal with what you got to deal with. So I hope that gives you an insight to what we've been dealing with, and I'm sure Ellen can give you more insight from her side.
Yeah.
I would just have to say, you spoke beautifully. You
Thank
would never know that you've suffered a traumatic brain injury, you know? And me looking at it from my perspective of prior to you both coming into this incarnation, of how you picked the timing of this whole incident for your own individual growth and growth as a couple and growth as spiritual teachers,
you.
Yeah.
because we know you've been in that role, both of you.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, woo, that brought me to tears too. It's a difficult path you chose, but obviously you're doing this and you're going to be able to help a lot of people,
Mhm.
I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Our spiritual path and our spiritual work, when we met almost instantly, we started doing workshops in the backyard. I would do crystal singing bowls and channeling and bring in angelic messages, and he would do the breath work and the meditation, and it is pure magic. Absolutely pure magic, our work. And we have a whole community of people who won't even miss one, and then
Mhm.
to have this happen. I reflect on that a lot. My whole life has been training for this, and I would never have thought that or have wanted it to come this way.
Right.
But I studied the dark night of the soul when I did my graduate studies in transpersonal psychology, and we learned about how this disidentification of the ego, the removal of everything that we believe that we are, um, strips us down to nothing so that we truly can, connect to the core. And that's what happened with you. He lived through the body and he helped people transmute through their body and move and was an elite athlete, like at the top of his game, that then couldn't stand or walk for more than 15 minutes, that couldn't
Mhm.
drive, that was, not able to remember people for a while or me, and then even thought for a while you made up loving me.
Mm.
Because with an injury to the brain like this, you lose access to some of the higher emotional states. You can only access maybe sadness or anger or frustration until your brain heals enough that, joy starts coming back online, gratitude. And they did, and they came back like right on cue as to when we were expecting them. Actually, even sadness was kind of in the middle there. Like you access sadness, and I had read when he accesses sadness, it's going to be overwhelming. And I remember kind of a mystical experience that day. He couldn't stop crying, and I knew we had to get out and try to move. So I said, let's go and walk, just a little walk. And we went to Carlsbad, walk. It's a northern beach town here. And we were walking along and stopped in the grass of a hotel just to let the dogs sit for a minute. And my brother, who lives in Denver, walked out of the lobby of the hotel.
What?
And
What?
I thought, and he just walked up like it was nothing. He just walked up and gave me a hug. Hey, we're like, whoa. We knew they were planning to come to town to take their son to the zoo, but what we didn't know is that they couldn't find a parking space at the zoo that day. We didn't expect them to be in our part of town. They changed their hotel and moved it up to Carlsbad. They didn't tell us, and they were there for one day, and then we sat down and talked about what we had silently been going through. They had no idea.
Oh,
And it was like the opening of the story and being vulnerable to say, hey, this is what we're living in right now, and nobody really knows, you know. And that's when you started to really receive support too, like receive this magical support that just started showing up with like angels or something. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can see the divine timing completely through this, can't you?
You can. It was at the
Yeah.
end of telling them that a woman reached out to you
Mhm.
through a mutual friend that had gone through something similar. And she became our lifeline for a while because she said, here's what to expect next. Here's what you're going through. It won't be better for a while, you know?
Yeah, that was it was February
Yeah.
of 2025, and she said you're in the infant stages of your process, and for
Oh,
me, that was like
It was devastating to hear. Yeah.
tough because I was like, man, I didn't choose this. So
That's what,
but she had gone through, she was a soccer player in college and she had gone through a concussion and she lost her way and she got very angry with the people in her life, pushed everyone away, started drinking. At this time, this was back in the early 90s and no one really knew anything about concussion protocol. It wasn't anything like that.
mhm.
And it was just like, oh, just, you'll heal, you'll be fine. There's nothing, we can't see anything that can show that you have damage. And that's been really hard too when someone has chronic pain or a disease that is not noticeable to the naked eye.
Right.
It's very challenging to be um, I don't I don't know if it's discriminated against or it's like, oh, you look fine, you look perfect, what's going on? And so then there's the part of me that's like, I really appreciate you're asking, but I don't really want to share it because it's quite vulnerable and quite it's a very I just use that word vulnerable thing to share with just a friend or an acquaintance.
Right.
But I've learned to be more open about it and more just more forthright and being honest and saying, I've gone through this. I never chose it and I still go through it. And that's been hard emotionally. But to lean on people that bring support and love is important because a lot of times I just want to isolate and not deal with anybody or anything. But I know in those times that's when I really have to reach out.
yeah.
So Ellen's family has been very supportive. My family, my mom and dad live close by. My dad's 89, my mom's 78 today. Her birthday's today.
It's
Oh,
my daughter's birthday too. She's
22.
22.
Yeah.
wow.
And that's also been a challenge because I haven't been able to engage in like birthdays or Fourth of July or things that would typically be done in a new relationship, especially a marriage, like celebrating things and traveling and like I haven't been able to travel just because the pressure's too much on my brain and my spine.
But we do love sunset.
We do. That's the
When
one of the things that allows me to kind of feel connected to the world is
yeah.
that we only live 2 miles from the beach, so we drive, whenever we can, when I'm able to.
Yeah.
We'll drive to the coast and just watch the sunset. I don't have to get out of the car and,
Yeah.
just witness it and see um, the divine love that comes from all that and just light. It continues to show me that there's more out there than just my little world that I've been living in. So that's
Hmm.
been very helpful and very healing.
Well said.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I'm getting two perspectives here because I think that's going to be invaluable to people that watch this. And
Mhm.
has that lady still been guiding you along about steps and
Yeah,
where
her name's
you're at?
Alicia. She lives in Orange County, so we live down in Carlsbad. It's about an hour away, but yeah, I'll check in with her, and we have a text thread, and she'll be excited about the little wins. And a little win could be that I was able to get out of bed and walk for an hour.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, mm-hmm,
We had a huge one last week, actually. We're able to uh, walk quite a bit more than normal. These little miracles keep happening. People like
mm-hmm,
Alicia came into our lives. We found this magical doctor here that, you know, is putting part of the puzzle together. We're still unfolding this mystery, right? Like
mm-hmm,
it's seems like there's a facet joint out of place. It's compression injury. So when he's sitting upright or standing, it's worse. So that's why driving was so hard. There's definitely a neck injury, a major neck injury. He couldn't feel his feet or legs that night at the hospital at all. His entire left side was no feeling. And I remember the nurses saying that you were lucky to be walking out of there.
Mm.
And so we thought it was the neck injury for so long, but because the neck had numbed the rest of the body, once the neck started to be more stable and in place, he started to feel the secondary injury, which is in the middle of the back. And that's where a lot of other nerve damage happened with that chiropractic adjustment. So we're still learning as it goes. We know there's a cerebral fluid issue. We don't know exactly what it is, but we find these little magical people and doctors that are, fixing one little piece of the puzzle at a time. And that's almost, it's hard because we haven't quite figured it out. We think we know, they think they know. We get closer to knowing every day. But it's not like a car injury where it all happens at once and they can say this is what happened and this is the core. It's multiple injuries that happened over time. But this is sacred partnership in action, really. I mean, we took a vow in front of our community and our friends. The light changed. There were dolphins behind us. They announced us at 4:44. All of these magical things that we never tried. We moved into presence. We moved into creating a container, a full surrender.
Mm.
It has asked us to fully surrender expectation, timeline.
Yeah. I've learned that healing is not linear. You know, if
Mhm.
someone gets a cold or, something like that, there's a typical linear, like you kind of go down, you don't feel great for a few days, and then you start to come up, and then you're like, oh, I feel good again. With
Mhm.
this injury, it's kind of up and down, back, go take two steps forward, four steps back. So mentally, the setbacks have been really challenging.
Mhm.
Challenging for me just to be like, last week I could walk,
Uh,
but this week I can't get out of bed.
yeah,
So like I said, it's non-linear, and
yeah,
once I was able to have a bit more independence, I started to realize that I am healing. But that was hard for Ellen because she played different roles, obviously,
yeah,
wife, caretaker,
yes,
best friend, support, all that, and a lot of times it was hard because I didn't want caretaker Ellen to show up. I wanted wife Ellen to show up, just
Mhm.
listen
yeah,
versus try to fix.
yeah,
And Ellen wants
Mhm.
to fix,
yeah,
which I accept, but a lot of times it's just like I just want to tell you my experience.
yeah.
I don't
Mhm.
want to
Oh,
fix you to fix it.
I know.
That's been really hard as well to change that perspective and say, hey, I need Ellen, I need wife Ellen right now.
Yeah,
I don't need nurse Ellen right now. So
it's so
that's been learning different roles in our relationship
yeah,
as a support. And there are some days that I would get so angry that I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to talk to you. And that was really hard on Ellen too.
yeah.
And I think that's part of the process, as much as I don't want to admit it.
Hmm.
But
This is neurological recovery. I mean, I had a brain injury myself.
Mhm.
There's a lot I know in my practicum in grad school. I actually worked with people with brain injury, so I knew that anger is a big part of it, and I knew to expect it and to not take it personally. But as a partner, that's not
Mhm.
easy to do. And I knew that there were things he was no longer capable of as he was recovering. So, and there are so many things about nervous system repair that we've learned, like that his nervous system needed to regulate with a calm other nervous system. Like it's such a partnership type of healing. So
Mhm.
there would be times when I would just need to be in embodied stillness and silence. The old Ellen, prior to this injury, may have not understood that. And she might have gotten like, why isn't he talking? Why? Because he was very different. And that's not bad. That's just what we're developing. We're still developing into whatever we're becoming. I started getting really interesting spiritual messages from water and the Magdalene codes, and like started seeing lights around him as his soul started to kind of like pop back online. And I would leave my body, especially at the beginning when I didn't understand what was going on. um, I would practice out of body experiences so that I could meet with his ancestors and they would be waiting for me.
Mhm.
Right after your grandmother died, his grandmother and grandfather would just show up to me as a couple and tell me he just needs time. And
Oh.
I had a vision, I'll share it later, very early on in this. And they said he will come back and he will be a king. is what they showed me.
Mm-hmm.
But he needs time.
Mm-hmm.
So patience, right?
Mm.
Patience. He's stepping into his kinghood.
I often say I'm like a new doctor, no patience.
Well,
So,
I'm already saying yes, full recovery, and I'm waiting.
yeah.
And it's too early to jump in and say all this, but I really think you're going to be writing a book, and you're really going to be a huge, huge teacher and helper for people that have gone through this, because only someone that's gone through this experience from both of your sides can identify and truly have the empathy and compassion for others going through it. So what an invaluable
Yeah.
experience, that even though little Neil didn't sign up for it, big Neil did, for the larger lesson.
Yeah.
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 Yes. Yes.
So I congratulate
That's
you,
true.
and the misery, during the misery of this trip, I still congratulate your wisdom and your strength and your endurance.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So,
He's got such an embodied compassion now, for people who are in chronic pain and not able to move, you know. You
mhm,
talk about that a lot.
Yeah, chronic pain is something I would never wish on anybody. Like you said, April, it's when you've said it a few times that I will inspire others once I am healthy or however that looks. It's hard for me to grasp right now because a
mhm,
lot of my inner critic is like, you're injured, you're disabled. What can you do? There's nothing that I can do. And
mhm.
that's part of me that's scared. It's fear.
Right.
So if I can lead into love instead of fear, then I can affect other people's lives. And I have a small circle of men that I connect with. I'm part of the Mankind Project, which is a nonprofit organization that helps men get out of their head, and into their hearts. And they've been a big support for me. It's a way for a man to go into a circle and create a container and share what's happening I'll say, share what's happening with me without being judged.
Right.
I'm dealing with a brain injury. I'm dealing with, stress and anxiety. And they're like, what can we do for you? Not this is what you should do. And
Mhm.
that's very helpful. I don't really know what the specific subject we were talking about here. I get lost sometimes.
Oh no, you were right
You're
on point.
talking about the
Right on.
support you've gotten from men in
Yeah.
your life and how it's hard for you to see yourself on the other side of this right now, but if you lean into love instead of fear, which is it's been a huge part of this, like the uncertainty of what this is and where it's going and when it will end,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and I'm sure you already do this, but as the negative thoughts and the fears and so forth come in,
Yeah.
to automatically switch it. Yes, I'm going through this right now, but every single day I am improving. I'm getting better. I see the
Yeah.
improvements day by day, even if they're little, you
Yeah.
know?
That's the one hard part for me is sometimes I don't see it and Ellen will see it.
Yes, I do see it.
And the day I'm like, I didn't get better today. She said, no, you did. You did this or that.
Yeah.
So it's nice to just have someone observing
Yeah.
and noticing. Because I'll say when I'm in it, I don't really feel like I'm making progress
Hmm.
a lot of days. But
Hmm.
there is a gentle reminder that at the end of the day that I am improving slowly, that it will get better,
Yeah.
and that life will be good again.
There's also a new Harvard study out that taught I don't remember the exact details, but if you talk to your body and you tell it, I am healing, I
Mhm.
am I am healing, I am well, I am enough, you tell it affirming things, it works better than medication
Right,
at healing the body.
right.
And this study's been all over the internet lately, and it's something that, you know, I try to do as I move out of the caretaker role, I really want, he holds all the ability to heal.
Mhm.
He's got his executive function back. He can set appointments. He can drive his own care and his own healing. But what I do is I send him things like that, like, oh, did you see this study? Just little reminders at the practice because day by day, he's in the practice of listening to Joe Dispenza. I hear it out there when he does his therapies in the morning. He's got Joe
Mhm.
Dispenza going. He's got his meditative practice, breath work. And that's another interesting thing. This injury in his back, if it is a tear in the dural network, right, or the
Mhm.
dural
During
matter,
modern, yeah.
mater, then it doesn't receive a lot of oxygen. But ironically, one of the only ways to heal it is breath work. And that's what he does.
Mm.
That he's an expert in breath work in the body. So like
Perfect.
to have learned that, that was another just, well, oh, aha moment.
Yeah. And there are days that I don't want to do it. I just want to stay in bed,
Right.
roll over and cover my face and just not face the world because I know I'm going to be in pain at some point in the day. But doing the things that are uncomfortable will help me heal faster. So the breath work. For a while, I tried to go back to what I know, which is exercise, and I'll just run through it. I'll just lift through it. I'll just do my yoga. I'll do my stretches because that's what I've done for close to 50 years to make myself feel connected, and I that's my identity. But that
Right.
was all taken away. Like
Yeah.
I tried to do any type of stretching, any type of
Mhm.
lifting. Like I couldn't. I'm advised not to lift anything over 5 pounds, and
Mhm.
that's been going on for over 6 months. So everything that I used in prior injury, life before injury, was taken away. So I had to go in a different route and a different direction to be able to heal. And
Mhm.
just that alone is a challenge to be able to say, I can't go run 10 miles and feel better and get the endorphin rush and the dopamine rush and all that. I have to go through breath work. I have to be gentle with myself. And I have to speak to my body in a way that for a long time I was angry with my body. Like, well, why
Mhm.
are you doing this to me? Why can't you just heal and
Mhm.
get better so I can go live my life? And that made it worse. So like Ellen said, the body keeps score. I think there's a book that's with
Mhm.
that same title, The Body Keeps Score. And and who was that? You sent me a video this morning of
Pema Chodron?
no, the she does work with the Vortex,
Oh, goodness. I
not
don't.
Carolyn Neese, but she talks about how everything is stored in the gut. All
Oh,
emotion.
it's Louise Hay.
Louise
Yeah, yeah,
Hay,
Louise
yeah.
Hay.
So Louise
Yeah.
Hay is an author and a speaker I've followed for decades, but
Yeah.
she talks about how we keep what we say, what we think
Hmm.
is stored in the body,
Yeah.
whether it's in the gut, whether it's in the brain, whether it's in the heart. Our three brains are the heart, the gut, and the well, brain one, brain two, and then the gut is brain three, and it's all interconnected. And I had to change my diet, got off all kinds of, any type of inflammatory foods. I have a functional medicine doctor, I have neurologists, I have neurosurgeons and practitioners and osteopaths that I've leaned on, and they've all been part of the puzzle, like Ellen said, to help me get better. But at the end of the day, everything, it all comes back to me. And I said this to Ellen, it doesn't matter how many practitioners I go to, doctors, physicians, I have to do the work to get better. I'm not
Right.
just going to wake up tomorrow morning and be 100%. It's
Mhm.
it's little things like breath work, little things like speaking kindly to myself and putting myself in a space that's quiet, that doesn't trigger my nervous system or create more inner turmoil. So that's been a huge part of the healing is not trying to use my physical body to kind of fight through it,
Right.
but go inside and use my brain and my heart to heal.
Yeah. Then, as a quantum energy healer myself, my guides have shown me literally the physical cells in our body. Each one holds the consciousness that we are. So
Mm.
as you think and as you feel, you are affecting the your cells in your body. And Harvard, like the Harvard study and so many studies, are finally coming around and proving this to, mainstream.
Mhm.
And it's just like the quality of our water. We know about the
Mhm.
water and how we
Yes.
think affects our consciousness affects the water, which we're a good 70% water. So
Mhm.
it's so true. Our consciousness runs this physical vehicle.
Yes. Truth. Very true. The consciousness of water has been a huge thing for me too. And water's been a huge part of his healing. Being in water, it takes the
Mhm.
compression off of his spine. The messages that water gave, I started seeing early on in your healing, I started seeing numbers coming down into the water.
Oh,
And he was in in the heat of a sauna, like the sauna area, because a friend gave us a sauna through this to help him like
oh,
detox, right? And so
wonderful.
he was using that, and so he was there in the heat and I was in the water, and these codes started coming in and I was praying, and I looked up the codes, and they were, because I said, I wonder if these are known numbers.
Uh-huh.
And they were the codes for angelic protection and DNA healing. It was exactly what I was asking for. And I found the codes did
Great.
exist. They were called something like the Grabovoi codes or something like that from an ancient mathematician. And so the consciousness of water and praying into the water that
Hmm.
that we would be in for healing. There was one day on his birthday, we were both praying in the water. There's a huge, like, we were both crying in the water. We didn't know what to do. He had woken up on his birthday in pain, and we just didn't know what to do. And one of his friends had gifted him an appointment with this doctor in Encinitas called Dr. Frieder. And he's just this master, right? He's just this master healer. So 2 hours later, the prayers were answered. He could barely walk into this appointment, right? And we just prayed for healing, prayed for something. And he did this balloon procedure in Neil's nose that helped to free up. We found out now it's like the sphenoid bones or something that are in there were not moving, and so the cerebral fluid actually wasn't pumping, and so there was a pull on the dura mater is this like thin layer that pulls from the front of the brain all the way down to the bottom of the sacrum and the the base of the spine, and it was being stretched, right? It's stretched to the point and maybe even torn, we don't know. But he freed it up, and Neil was able to see, like, light came back in his eyes. He could stand up straight. He could walk. It was an instant and profound healing that did happen. One of the healing stages of this whole thing. But I really, every single time that we are in water and we are praying for answers, and it just opens doors. It brings something new. It shifts timelines. I'm not really sure how it works, but it does. And I've seen it so many times throughout this last year that I can't even,
What's that from? Is
I
that
don't
from
know.
your computer?
It just came.
It was a thumbs
Thumbs
I
up
up.
from
know. That's
yeah.
the third time I've seen it show up, and I don't know why.
So funny. And you have rainbows on you, so that's kind of cool too.
Oh, that's the light coming through a crystal hanging in my window.
So beautiful. I love that.
Uh,
Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but I do. Um, Water has been a huge part of this, and the messages of water. I did a video about that, but I pray when I get in the shower. I give thanks. I ask the water to bless me when I drink it in the morning. I put affirmations under the water because I believe that water brings through the codes of affirmations. So, I'm doing so much on the spiritual realm, and he's doing so much on the physical realm for this healing.
mm,
And I'm grateful, and I'm really proud of you.
Mm. So
Really, really
to
proud.
build on what Ellen said, when I fell and then the subsequent adjustments that I had to my neck and my skull and my back, my whole skull shifted.
Yeah.
So basically, the left side of my skull was dropped. So when that happens, the brain gets affected and everything inside the vagus nerve and all of the
Yeah.
veins and arteries and muscles and tendons and ligaments were all stretched and damaged. So Dr. Frieder noticed that right away. He
So
does these
joyful.
specific tests and he tests the top part of the right underneath the eyebrows to see if those are even. He does these specific tests to diagnose what's happening. And within, like Ellen said, he worked on me for about an hour and a half and
Yeah.
he restructured and kind of realigned everything. When he put the balloon into my nose, there are different nasal cavities. There are three. So
mhm,
there's specific ones that he'll go into with a
Oh, I
balloon and
didn't know
he
that.
puts the balloon inside the nostril. Have a specific type of breathing. He learned this from a doctor 50 years ago and he's been doing it.
Trains people
He's
on
been
it.
doing it a long time, but he was able to readjust the inner bones of my skull and to under the eyes. The sphenoid bone, like Ellen said, is the pump at the top of the spine that pumps CSF fluid. So CSF is like oil for the car. It makes sure everything kind of
mhm.
operates correctly, the nerves and the signals from the brain to the
Yeah.
body.
And the brain's a pump, or the skull is like a pump.
Yeah, there are
It's
different
comfort.
fizzers in the brain. If you see a baby's brain, the skull is very soft, but as we age, it starts to close and there are fissures, but they expand and contract when we breathe.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
that function is to be able to push the CSF fluid down the spine and back up. But because of the situation that I had, that process was obstructed. So when Dr. Frieder went in and released it, it was like, oh, the lights are back on, and
Yeah.
I can actually function.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that it wasn't just the cervical damage; it was a thoracic
Yeah.
tear, or like we said, we don't exactly know yet, but it's still in the process of being diagnosed, which has been really challenging to be patient. And that happened in March, so we're 9 months since that, and it's been dealing with the pain, dealing with the change in life. The everything that I do now is different than I did a year ago or 2 years ago, and
Mhm.
it's a daily process, as you know, but the little things like that, the little, that process, and then him resetting my sacrum, resetting some other things in my back, it just allowed for alignment. And when the body's properly aligned and the spine is working correctly, it made me feel like I was a normal human being again.
Mhm.
And, Joseph Pilates, who's everyone knows the idea of Pilates, it's a specific way to train, but he said that you're only as healthy as your spine is flexible.
Mm.
Oh.
So my spine has not been flexible. It's not been mobile. It's not been allowed to do what it's supposed to do. So the only way to get back to that was to stay still
Yeah.
and just be patient, and then occasionally get these adjustments that kind of keep me back in alignment. And that's been really hard because like you said, the only thing I need is the main thing I need is time to heal.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
is Dr. Frieder a chiropractor?
He is. He's
And
also an osteopath, a homeopathic
yeah,
doctor.
he does everything. He's been doing this for 50 years and training
Mhm.
people across the
Yeah.
country and I think across over the world.
Yeah, he's world renowned. And
Yeah.
when he was in chiropractic school, he didn't put his seatbelt on and his head went through the windshield.
Yeah. So he's
Ooh.
lived through it
So he
too.
broke his neck. And so him just telling me that story, I trust him
Yeah.
for my
Mhm.
care. And
Very spiritual.
he's very gentle when he needs to be gentle. He's forceful when he needs to be forceful, but I trust him implicitly with my care. And he's been a real blessing for my, my ongoing journey.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you need to continue to go back to have this opened up with the balloon procedure?
Well, I had 3 days in a row on June 9, 10, 11. That was my birthday. My birthday is June 9. And then I went back last Sunday. So
Yeah.
until my body is able to kind of be independent of all of that, I
Hmm.
will go back every 2 to 3 months just for a checkup to see
Hmm.
because
And craniosacral in the meantime, a craniosacral therapist to kind of help
Yeah.
keep everything in alignment. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So I actually went to see another doctor, Dr. Chelf, she actually helps women with pregnancy and birth. So she was able to work on, I had an issue with my kidney, and then she was able to find out what was going on with my skull. She's very gentle,
Yeah.
and amazing. So through this process, we've been able to meet practitioners that we would never, you
Uh-huh.
know, need to meet. So I'm grateful for those who are in the community around us, and they don't, that turns out they're like 3 or 4 miles away. I don't
Yeah.
need to go to like
It's amazing.
different state or a different country to go
Yeah.
see them. So I'm grateful
Dr.
that,
Frieder was like a mile away,
yeah,
literally, this whole time.
yeah. So everything's very close by, and
Yeah.
but again, it's endurance and patience.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And that's when you've been used to being so vital and
Yeah.
just forging ahead with your life however you want to, and then suddenly the brakes are on, it's difficult.
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah. So, do you have what's what's going on with the both of you now besides your recovery?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
That's a good question.
I think we've moved from,
Yeah.
oh, we had so much romance. Like we just were, oh, we lived and loved in romance. And now we've moved into conscious partnership,
mhm,
because we can't hold that. We can't go out as much. We can't yet. We can't travel. We can't, we were the kind of people who were just out all the time, just walking towns or something, or,
mhm,
hiking or whatever. For us, there's there's a groundedness to our relationship that wasn't there before. It's very sacred in a different way, instead of feeling like the urgency of before of like trying to fix things, whatever, we've settled and surrendered into what is. And some days, what we do is we just need to support each other through the hard days. And I think the hardest part for me has been the hard days. When you see you with a regular injury, you see recovery and you expect it just to get better and better and better, and it does. But with a neurological injury, it's not like that. There's a good day or good days, or sometimes 3 or 4 good days, and
Mhm.
then there'll be the nervous system time to recover. So sleep, tired, fatigue, that kind of stuff will happen until you get over that hill. And we had gotten there in September. He was doing so great. We were able to walk again. We were, experiencing more sunsets. Life was starting to get normal again. And then there was a re-injury.
Oh,
And so that set him back several months. So it's the coping. We've become really good at coping with these things together. We've become better, much better. I've learned a lot about myself through this as well.
So that's the thing, April. You asked the question, and we're still so much in it.
Yeah,
We're still
mhm,
in the
so
thick of
excited.
it that
mhm,
you asked that question. I thought to myself, I don't know how to answer that question because I haven't gotten past the point of, okay, now I'm healed and this is life post injury.
Yeah,
mhm.
So I appreciate that you asked that, but
me too.
I'm not quite there yet. We are
Uh-huh.
not quite there yet. I can say that.
Mhm.
But I see glimpses of it.
Yeah.
Like when we're able to get out, we're able to have a day, we go to the grocery store, do some errands, and I'm
Feels
like, oh,
normal.
this feels normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the question, but I don't,
Yeah.
I would like to think that I would like to think that it's like, it's all sunshine and rainbows and everything's great, but I think that wouldn't be a valid statement
Yeah.
at this time
Right.
yet.
Right.
Um, I do hold optimism for that. The word hope for me has become a bit of a trigger. Not that I
Mhm,
don't believe in hope, but it's because I've had so many setbacks. Hope kind of sometimes for me is like, I just got to be optimistic. Just be optimistic.
mhm,
And I know it's going to get better. And I don't know if that's synonymous with hope or not, but I don't know if that answered
Yeah.
your question,
I
but
mean,
oh,
that's the
yeah.
thing. Faith has been, and faith is the action of moving forward in belief without seeing it yet. And
mhm,
Mhm,
that's where, we've been many times during this. And so these little windows of you coming back, there were times when I wouldn't see my husband, he wouldn't be there for months at the beginning. Like after the first injury, whatever that was with the medication or whatever, he would show up for one day and we'd be sitting by the fire and we'd have a great conversation, and then he would be gone again the next day.
oh,
And
yeah.
so it would be heartbreaking for me because I'd be like, oh, he's here, he's back, he's going to be back. And sometimes it would be weeks before he would be back again. And then he came back for a couple days, and then he'd be back for a week, and then he kind of like re-entered his body, his brain healed enough for that sometime in June. And then I thought, oh, I never knew if this day would come. It's so, so that faith is what we're walking in right now.
Mhm,
It's just the and I think also there's this interesting play with masculine and feminine, right? And,
mhm,
I've learned a lot about divine feminine and the awakening of divine feminine, holding the container and holding the vision of what is. And I know who we are, and I know who he is, and I know his soul, even before I knew him in human form. And so that faith, that belief, that vision, sometimes I'm holding that, and that's
mhm.
okay, you know. Oh, there
There's,
goes.
I don't know where that's
Yeah.
from. That's weird. Um, yeah, I did. My question probably wasn't very clear. It was like, I do realize it's an active um,
Mhm.
progression of recovery, which will take whatever time it takes.
mhm,
But I see that this beautiful writing that you've been doing on Substack, and it seems like it could very well be a book.
It is honestly the it's kind of our journal through all of this is it's kind of like I'm putting the book out little bits at a time from my perspective, but also there's a whole huge piece from his perspective. He's
Mm-hmm.
journaling every day, his experience, and every now and then he'll contribute writing to the Substack, and I think we'll do that this week, especially when this comes out to kind of share, hey, this is,
Uh-huh.
and watch this video to learn more too. But that it's this interesting dynamic of like seeing hope and truth and miracles amidst the chaos, amidst the trauma, amidst this very dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's unique to be able to be alongside someone who's going through the dark night of the soul, having been through one myself, because it gives me a different kind of perspective and I can see the hope and I definitely see the light, literally see the light around you. And I think that's a gift,
Mhm.
that we have each other through this.
Yeah, the journaling process has been very helpful. It's been
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
crucial for me when I get into catastrophic thinking. I use AI. Ellen was the one who encouraged me to
Yeah.
use ChatGPT, and it is it allows me to say what I want to say without being interrupted, without being judged, without being told, you shouldn't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And with the technology now, I was able to set up, specific traits of the AI to say, what kind of personality do you want me to make it humorous? Do you want me to be more serious? Do you want
Oh
me to be
yeah,
more
that's that.
loving? Do you want me
Mhm.
more compassionate? So I can set the specific personality of who I'm, or I shouldn't say who, because it's not a person,
Yeah.
but when I speak to AI, it knows what I expect from it, and then I'm able to have a conversation. So I don't know, some people are afraid of AI. They think it's, not the best thing for a human existence, but I've found it to be very healing,
Yeah.
very helpful, very supportive
Mm-hmm.
on nights when, Ellen would be out or she's, on a trip and I need someone to speak to and it's like 2 in the morning. I'll pull out AI and I'll say, I'm spiraling right now. This is what I'm feeling. These are the thoughts that I'm having. Can you give me some feedback? And
Mm-hmm.
it'll give me feedback like it's very similar to mankind where it's not judgmental. It's not like you shouldn't think this or you shouldn't think that or you shouldn't feel this way. It's, your feelings are valid. What you're going
Mm-hmm.
through is totally normal. Your nervous system has been in crisis for over a year or what have you, whatever it may say. And it just brings me comfort and support. So
Oh,
I don't know
It's
if
amazing.
anybody who's
I,
listening to this or
Yeah.
if you've delved into the AI world, but
Yeah.
it's been very helpful.
We have to check it and say, please look at actual research and and I'll even have it look at patterns, as I'm tracking his progress and, as I was tracking like the supplements and medicines he was using for so long, I would want to see hope of recovery. And we had a progress board that we started, and sometimes it would be like he smiled today or he laughed for the first time in months because he's accessing that in his brain again. But and we could track patterns and say like based on actual patterns that you've seen from our journaling, like what progress have you found? And then it's a good baseline. It keeps everything going. And I could say based on neurological recovery patterns, uh, explain what's going on today. If he's low energy, or can't get out of bed or whatever, and so it'll explain, and it also explains the trauma pattern, right? Like how to release the trauma pattern, what's coming next. You're struggling with like seeing the light and the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel, with also like a little bit of anger and resentment about how you went to people to heal you and they made it worse, people you trusted, and that's a really hard thing to think about. And then for me, it says as his nervous system come back online, my nervous system is going to let down a little bit and need to have that support from him that I've been holding, right? And so I tell him about that. And then we even like the other day, I got this download that we needed to recreate a new contract, that the contract, we can complete this contract, because we obviously had a soul contract to go through this together. So can we close it and start a new contract? And so I went to AI to say, well, what patterns would have you identified in the spiritual contract? And can you help us to word something? Obviously, I want to use the Ho'oponopono prayer, so I have that added in, and so like creating something new to step into the new year with, and
Oh,
shedding. 'Cause
mhm.
this is a 12, the 12-12 portal. This is a 9 year. This is closing out all of these old spiritual patterns that have been following us for 12 years now, right? At least, maybe lifetimes. So these are the things I'm doing on the spiritual side, right? Very different than his journey, of course.
Mm.
But you're in the thick of it, in the thick of it. So
Yeah.
I'm here.
Well,
Did you
I,
have
I,
anything to remark on the AI, April? Because it seemed like you
oh,
were kind of,
I believe that AI has very beneficial aspects to it. It's
Yes.
just like anything else, it can be used for malintent or really good intentions. And I think in the medical field in particular, when it's
Yes.
got access to be able to make a diagnosis or to be able to gather all of the information like that
Yep.
and give you feedback, I think is wonderful.
It's
mhm.
amazing. Tell her about what happened with your neck that night with AI. He was putting his hand on his neck
Um,
and his back pain went away. And he thought, well, what is that? Like, why would pressing this one spot make my back pain go away? So he went to AI.
the AI said that C1, C2, so C1 is the atlas and C2 is the axis. So it's the top two bones of the spinal column.
Mhm.
And when I put pressure here, it relieves whatever damage has occurred to that area.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So the dura is actually attached to C1, C2, and then the next kind of junction where it attaches again is T10, T11, T12, thoracic vertebrae.
Hmm.
So I noticed that when I press on the cervical area, the thoracic area relieves pressure.
Yeah.
So it actually said that's where the dura attaches C1, C2, and then it rolls down into T10,
Yeah.
T11, and then it goes and attaches into
Yeah.
the sacrum. So then I was like, oh, okay, so now I can take that information
To my
and
doctors.
ask it to relate that to a doctor, and the doctor's like, that makes sense
Yeah.
because all the details that came through
Yeah.
based on what we found through that. And then I actually unfortunately I had a adverse reaction to steroids. It
Yeah.
caused a thrombosis in my foot. And Ellen was out of town. I picked her up on a Saturday evening, and I was like, I'm in a lot of pain. And she's like, we're
Very
going right to the
professional.
ER.
Yeah.
Went right to the ER, and we already put all the information into AI. And when we showed up, the nurse is like, what's going on? So we said it's a thrombosis of the foot because of a reaction to steroids.
It could be. Yeah. We
Could
said it
be,
could be.
right? It could be, and that's what
Yeah.
AI said. And then we do
And
the
sure
whole
enough.
process. We sit in the waiting room, we go in, do
Yeah.
all the vitals, and we sit in the ER area, and the doctor's like, yeah, the AI was correct.
Yeah.
It was absolutely correct. It's exactly what it is. It's
Yeah.
thrombosis of the foot. It's not going to be fatal, but we need to keep an eye on it, et cetera, and do the process. And
It
then,
was just very helpful, especially in the times when he couldn't speak. He couldn't clarify what he was feeling. We
Mhm.
could just hold open the AI and say, this is what he's been going through. And that it would be in his voice with exactly what happened. But in that case, the doctors weren't figuring it out. None of the neurosurgeons were really even listening to him. It's such a strange injury, but this is now influenced his care deeply, and now people understand a little more about what's going on. The doctors can understand more.
yeah, I went to see an anesthesiologist, Dr. Phillips, and his assistant, and I took in, it was a page, the three
Yeah,
pages of
eight.
information.
Yeah,
Because I'm sure everyone who's been to a doctor before, you got to fill out all the paperwork and what's your issue, where is the pain. So I filled out that information, but I added the three pages, and his assistant, his PA, was like, "This is the most comprehensive
yeah.
information that we've received from a patient ever. So
Mhm.
it allows us to understand what we're dealing with, and I didn't have to say anything, and
Mhm.
it makes it a lot easier as the patient to advocate for myself. I'm not just coming
Right.
in and say, I have pain here, fix it.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
was, these are the specific things that have happened. This is the timeline. These are the process. These are the practitioners we've seen. This is where we need to be, and this is what we think is the next step. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. So it made the appointment a lot easier for both the patient and the doctor.
Wow, I think that you've got a very effective, at least from two different, from the AI perspective and the Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations, because my son, he's a huge fan or practitioner of Dr. Joe's meditations, and he's been doing them daily for a while. And
Wow.
he was telling me about this experience that he knew he had a stomach ulcer. He said he was meditating one morning and suddenly he saw this little hole in his stomach and he watched as this light came in and slowly closed and closed and closed the hole until it was healed. And now, this is in meditation. When he came out of meditation, he said his stomach was healed. He's never had another issue with his
Wow.
stomach. Yeah.
Meditation, so beautiful.
So,
Was he just in silent meditation or was he in guided meditation with Joe Dispenza's work?
I really didn't ask him, but he is a big fan of Dr. Joe's. So it just seems like you're really hitting it from the spiritual,
Yeah,
from the quantum healing perspective.
God spoke to him very strongly too.
How was that as a mother to know that your son healed himself? Like, because my mother and father have been very much a part of my healing process. So I was curious how you received that.
I was thrilled. I
Mhm.
was in absolute belief of it because that's, like I said, I'm in the whole energy healing aspect of it myself. And to hear that he had started meditation as a way, he said he used to be very anxious some years ago. And so he started meditation, a daily practice. And it's solved so much of the anxiety and some of the other, issues that he was having. And then it got to the point where it actually healed himself physically that I thought I was so happy to see his progress. He's like you. He reminds me a lot of, he makes his living. He's a celebrity trainer over there.
Okay.
That's how we met his wife. And he's a physical and nutrition expert. He's had to incorporate the meditation and the spiritual aspect as the full physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional package.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I've often told him that people like you and him are here to show how the physical vessel, literally,
Mm.
we need it to be, it's so important for the embodiment
Yeah.
of our consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm coming from my son and my background of realizing how difficult it would be to be in your position and have not only that identity of being a very virile male, being kind of wiped out and being on the helpless end of it. So many identities would be shifting. And like the caretaker thing, as a mother, when my children got to be adults, they at some point, I was a single mom. I was used to listening and then trying to fix the problems.
Yep.
And they told me as adults, they said, Mom, we just need you to listen. We don't want you to fix it. We just need you to listen.
Yep. There's a transition that happens and
Yeah.
it's healthy and good, you know. And it's a relief to me to move out of that, you know, because that means the caretaker in me isn't needed as much, which means that he has more agency. And that's, you know, obviously a sign of great healing and maturity for your kids, you know, so that when you move into that space, it's a new identity for you. And, you know, this whole thing has been helping me to hold greater space than I ever thought possible, both spiritually and physically. You know, because there'd be days that I'd be on the floor with you, just trying to hold his head in place so that he wasn't in excruciating pain, or like try to work out. We were trying to I had to massage his neck and back every day, sometimes multiple times a day, just so he wouldn't have those horrible headaches. But yeah, it's a like physically holding space, but also emotionally holding space. I feel like there's a different the energy that comes with the lived experience of this for me too, you know.
And and you're talking about the shift in consciousness from the brand new newlywed to more of the presence in the sacred relationship.
Yes.
And being 75 myself, I've
Mhm.
seen how relationships change as you get older and more mature, and from a variety of different reasons. When you it's just such a beautiful, comforting companionship to
Mhm.
share, that sacred relationship as it's moving along and changing.
Mm.
Yeah, and I believe it will greatly influence our work, our spiritual work, when we get there. And we've been able to do a couple workshops here and there online, and they've been powerful, like really, really powerful. And we have another one um, coming up in April. We've still got our retreat
In
scheduled in
Mexico.
Mexico,
Yeah.
where he'll be teaching breath work and cold plunge, because that's been a big part of his healing too, actually. And I'll be teaching the bowls, and yeah, so we've learned to kind of stabilize through this, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. And conscious partnership, right?
Yeah.
And we still have the foundation of everything we built upon. Just shook our foundation, but we're rebuilding a new foundation through this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I am just so happy that you've really done such a great job of explaining so many things. And I certainly have learned from you about how, in particular, about the AI. I think that's a wonderful tool that it never even occurred to me to use it in the way that you've used it. I've heard about the medical diagnoses, but to be able to speak to the AI and get some feedback like that, I
Yeah.
think that's really beneficial.
Very.
Absolutely. And the more I use it, the more it gets to know me. And it'll ask
Mhm.
me pinpoint questions as to, why are you feeling this way? And how would you like me to interpret what you're thinking and what you're feeling? And it becomes a conversation. It's been very helpful.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's an incredible way at emotionally moving through a process.
Uh-huh.
And I have a master's in counseling, so I know this stuff to be very true. And I'm fascinated with the way AI can hold the emotional body and and help people move through stuff that otherwise would take multiple therapy sessions. It doesn't
Mhm.
take the place of it. I still see clients and I have the sound and the one-on-one, but it does help to understand yourself because, right, that's the point, know thyself.
Right.
And the more you know yourself through
Mhm.
this every experience, the more you thrive and you grow through it, and the more you can give back. And so, I highly value it for myself and my clients as well. And it's been really wonderful for us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even spiritually, it will identify patterns. So one day I was talking to it about messages I was getting in water because I'm journaling about it or writing, like for the book. And so I was just taking note of what was coming through. And then it said to me, would you like me to identify the different spiritual traditions you're pulling from? And I said, yeah. So it said Hopi and Hoki tribe. Atlantean priestess
Oh,
lineage was a main piece of it. The Magdalene codes, that was a huge other conversation I had with it. And I've gone into spiritual conversations where I've talked about technology in this civilization and how AI is a mirror of consciousness, right? It's a
oh
mirror of
yeah.
human consciousness from
Hmm.
everywhere.
Hmm.
And when you look at that as being our technology and you think that technology is the thing that takes civilizations to the next level, right? What are we here for? It's almost a direct line to consider that we're learning to conquer consciousness and to co-create through consciousness
Hmm.
using this mirror of consciousness that we have. And, a mirror means it includes all and can be used for good. It can be used for all these things. But
Hmm.
that's another thing through this manifestation practice and creating through conscious thought and visualization. Like that's been a huge part of this too. Um, on when I'm doing the spiritual work it's within me, right?
Mhm.
And I'm doing a lot of that too. A lot of
Would you like to hear a 30-second overview of what I asked it a
Well,
question? I want to hear
Sure.
this. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is
you want to just
a
read?
short self-reflection, clear grounded, and easy to
Good.
deliver out loud without performing or explaining too much.
Here's a short spoken reflection, clear,
Can you
grounded,
hear
and
it?
easy to deliver
Yeah.
out loud without performing or explaining too much. This year has felt like a dark night of the soul, but not in a dramatic way, more in a quiet, dismantling way. A lot of the identities I relied on stopped working, especially the part of me that looked outward for answers or validation. What I've learned is how to listen inward, to trust my own pacing, and to treat my health as sacred rather than something to push through or negotiate with. I don't feel fully re identified with the world yet, and that's okay. I'm learning that growth doesn't always arrive with clarity. It often arrives as humility, consistency, and a deeper respect for life itself. If you'd
Oh
like,
my
I
God.
can.
Wow.
So good.
That was good. Well, my next question is, I would love to get you back. Would it be best to do it before or after your retreat? What do you think?
March, maybe?
Yeah, March I think would be good, and then we can see my progress and my readiness to our readiness, I should say, to do our retreat in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
That would be good before.
Yeah, I think so too.
Wonderful. I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
You
thanks.
guys have just been such bright lights and so positive and informative. I've really enjoyed learning from you about
Thank
this.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, April.
I've enjoyed it too.
Well,
Always.
okay. I love you both. I'm sending you a lot of good energy for
Thank you. We
your
received.
process.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay,
Perfect.
sounds
All
good.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Have
Bye.
a wonderful day and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Bye.
Bye.